After much deliberation, I've decided on a Midwestern American themed city for my first City Skylines 2 series. The map Waterway Pass is perfect for what we need here. It's got the environment and vibe that we need, and we're going to start this episode and series with some pretty serious terraforming. The good old American Midwest will have some of the most iconic cliffs you'll see anywhere in the world. This map here, Waterway Pass, representing it in City Skylines 2, has done a remarkably good job at getting that close resemblance to the cliffs in particular. So I've been having a really good look around the map. I've been studying it, trying to copy how they've done it with the in-game terrain tools, because like I mentioned, we are going to terraform this map extensively. So what I'm going for in terms of that is I want the main river running through the middle of the map to have the terrain either side of it a little bit higher, so that I guess it appears the river is sunken down or eroded into the land a little bit. And that turned out to be a massive job. I had to redo pretty much most of the map. And what you see here is pretty much what I was trying at the start, just the level tool and trying to make it look like these hills transition into that cliff. Admittedly, it doesn't look very good here, but I do get a little bit better at it, and eventually I nail it down to even things like water runoff. This map gets a lot of snow, and I'm picking that would mean that the rivers swell a lot during winter, so we see a lot of erosion on the hillsides. Now, these hills and cliffs that I'm making are nowhere near perfect, but I've got to admit it was a lot of fun doing this, and I can't wait for the editor to be unlocked or sorted out or whatever it is they need to do. But comparing my cliffs to the cliffs up above in the snow line, which are the original ones on the map, I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. So with all that terraforming, I've had to make a couple of new highway connections coming into the map, but we're going to transition off those into a really simple 2-lane highway that's going to run into where we're going to start our city. Even though I'm aiming really big, eventually I want to start small. I am being somewhat careful with the road that we're running in because eventually I want to upgrade it, not completely replace it. So it's mainly going to follow the contours of the land. Once that really simple highway's done, we can branch off somewhere and start making a loose grid pattern. Now, for whatever reason, I kind of envisioned the start of our little town, or eventually a big city, but the start of it was going to be near a riverbank. I'd like this little suburb to be right up against the river, and I've been looking on Google Earth around sort of Arizona and that type of area for inspiration, and I actually found a couple of places that were pretty close to what I'm going for, so that helped a heap. There was some pretty unique terrain around the place as well that I'm trying my best to replicate within game. It's a real shame we've got no tools to change the colour of the terrain. I mean, it would have been really nice to add like a dusty, deserty colour here and there to the terrain, but I guess we just have to make do with what we have. So there was a couple of really unique and cool areas around these rivers in real life where you could clearly see where the water would drain away and into the river. I'm trying to replicate that within game here, and I'm pretty happy with how it comes out, but like I say, being able to change the colour of the ground would have been magic here. What is really good though is the terrain tools in City Skylines 2 are much better than the ones in number 1. Like, you can make little wee channels without getting little jagged bits everywhere, which I reckon is going to come massively in handy later on. The first thing we're going to do is put down the water services that we need within game, and this gives us a good opportunity to create a bit of an industry here on the edge of our suburb that gives the suburb meaning. I mean, towns don't really just start for no reason. There's a local industry that it grows from, and the two things we're going to focus on out here are the water production and also stone mining, which we'll get to soon. So one of the things that's got me really excited about this series is I'm really going to take my time and detail it up properly. Well, as much as we can at this point anyway, but there's a few little tricks and tips we can employ to really give our city a bit of a gloss. We're also going to build as realistically as we possibly can, so for instance there's going to be a lot of parking around places like this. The water treatment plant is going to have hundreds of workers in reality, and we're also going to have more local industry around here as well, so the need for parking will be pretty substantial. I'm also going to take time to put some trees in here and there, especially lining around those car parks and maybe in between some of the buildings. And once I've got our power and water set up, I'm going to extend that grid a little bit further and get some zoning in. Thanks to me going nuts with the zoning tool, we're now going to be flooded with people moving into the city, and they're going to need more places to work. I don't mind, I could use the tax money. But I had a bit of an idea, especially after looking at Google Earth. That's where the inspiration has come from. But there was places that I noticed where it was either a construction site or maybe they were using it to store aggregate and stone. But there was these hollowed out sort of blocks that were within the industrial zones in particular that I seen, that I thought maybe they could be replicated within game with the actual stone mining industry with the paintable area. If I can make a ditch sort of 8 to 10 meters deep and then neatly fit the stone mining industry at the bottom of it, maybe I could pull the look off. Yeah, I don't know if I'm completely happy with that, but you guys can let me know what you think in the comments. It looks different and it sort of looks like it has a purpose, so I'm going to keep it. So now with that industry sort of started to be set up, it only made sense to extend it further. We've got like a stone crushing building that doubles as industry here that I'm going to plop down next to it. I've also started experimenting with the pedestrian paths used as sort of a surface painter. If you're patient enough, you can actually fill in small areas like this with snapping off. Warning, it's not much fun, but it can look pretty cool. I'm going to zone a bit more industry down here, and then you're going to see me plop down the dairy house. That building looked perfect for this location, so I'll do that, then extend the grid a little bit further. trains. I don't know much about them, but I love them. The only thing missing from our industrial site is old abandoned train lines coming in, or maybe not so abandoned. I say that because these lines aren't going to be used within game, they're going to be purely cosmetic. There is, however, going to be a part of this line that does carry on through that will be used. So I'm just going to try and poke this train line into our existing industry before I build any more of it here as non-evasively as I can. I don't want to do anything silly like making the turns too sharp or anything like that, but I want to try and install the train in a manner where I can zone around it pretty closely. If these lines are representing a really old train line, then the surrounding infrastructure is going to be built really tightly up to these tracks. There's a few other tricks that I have to employ here as well to get the roading in here and get it all set up so that we've got minimal dead space. But this is really going to be the final part of this industrial area here. It's not really going to grow much bigger than this. It's only going to be one of a handful in the city. And admittedly, this is going to be one of the smaller ones. I'd like to put the hospital down now. There's a bit of demand for it, but I don't just want to plop it down. I want to put it down in an interesting manner or a realistic manner. So rather than putting it directly on this main road, I'm going to branch off a little wee alleyway in a U shape and then put the medical centre on that, so the ambulances coming in can have a really clear turn off of this alleyway without blocking any traffic. That in turn is going to create a little bit of space between that alleyway and the main road, and I'm going to put some trees and use our little path trick in here to detail it up a little bit. The tight grid that we've been working with in this suburb is supposed to represent a really old part of the suburb, like the core of it, but we're going to start getting a bit more creative with the roads now. Some of these connector roads, as you can see, are going to run on a slight angle. These roads eventually are going to have a real purpose. They're going to extend for a long way and connect point A to point B really efficiently. We also have some demand for a high school, so I suppose I better chuck it down. And I know from my first couple of cities that the add-ons to the high school are massive, and if you don't put them in straight away, then you often don't have room. So in goes our high school and our athletics track the size of a small town, and then I'm going to put low residential right up tight to the edge of it, which is what we would see in real life. And with that, we're going to leave the first episode right there. I know, short and sweet, but what it means is I can pump out this series much more regularly. Well, at least I'm hoping I can. We've started small here, but in the next episode, we're going massive. We're going to start building out the downtown. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the content, and I hope to see you on the next episode. Catch you later.